Developing ideas is a must if you want to take your jazz piano playing to the next level. So if we're talking about solos, or even if we're just talking about kind of creating a masterpiece of any kind of type at all, we want to make sure that our themes are being developed well. And we're going to go into a whole bunch of reasons why that works real soon. But today we're going to look at the Symphony No. 5 from Beethoven. He was a master of developing themes, as was Mozart and Debussy and a whole bunch of other great composers. And so we're going to look at them a little bit, and we're going to look at the tune A Beautiful Love and see what we can do with that and just kind of get some ideas kind of flowing. All right, so let's get into it. So let's kind of look at how can you turn something simple into something amazing. Now, we need to develop a theme because we want to try and stay on topic, all right? So a theme is usually some kind of interesting few notes that are put together, but perhaps not even notes. Sometimes it's a rhythm, sometimes it's other things, right? In this case, for Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, he has that very, very identifiable four notes there, right? 1, 2, 3 of the same note. The whole orchestra is playing that, and then he goes down a major third and hangs on that note for a little while, right? That's his kind of main theme, right? Now he develops that and in many different ways. He repeats it almost exactly the same, but just a slightly lower, right? Okay, it's a minor third going down, but it's still three notes that are the same and then going down a third, right? So the first time was a major third, the second time was a minor third, but you can kind of see what's going on, right? He's staying true to the key, right? It's in C minor. The Symphony No. 5, the first movement, right? So three notes going down, the whole orchestra's playing that. It really sets the scene, right, doesn't it? Then it goes on, it still follows that three notes being played at the same time, then one note going down. Then it goes to something else, but it's three notes, then one going down. But it starts off that again, but then it only has, you know, a semitone there, right? So it's not as big a jump, right? It's only a minor second, but still the same kind of idea is being presented. So we've got something like this. Still three notes going down, three notes going down, three notes going down, three notes going down, but moving around the piano as well. Now, why does that work, right? Why is it important to develop themes? Well, the thing is with music, when we're writing music, and improvising is just writing music when we're, you know, but we don't, you know, write it down. We're composing music, but we're not putting it on paper, right? It's simply an exercise of saying, what is it that I want to do the same, and what is it that I want to do different? Okay, now at one extreme of the let's play everything the same is, you know, I guess techno music to some degree. There's certain types of repetitive music too in the classical world. I think it was in the 50s and 60s and 70s there was some experimentation on some pieces where hardly anything changed and just kind of slowly moved around a little bit. I'm not a big fan of it, but for me, it's not interesting enough. Okay, it's really easy to understand. Like if I played and I just can repeated that, it's really easy to understand, right? You know what I'm going to do next. There's no surprise. There's no surprises as to what's going to happen next, all right? Now that's okay for a little while. You want something else to come in a little bit later. If we had something else coming in, okay, cool, all right, that kind of makes sense, right? But if we just did this the whole time, it would get so boring really quickly. All right, so when we're doing the same thing over and over again, it's easy to understand. We know what's going on. It's kind of like having a conversation about a particular topic with a friend of yours, and you just keep talking about that same topic for too long, right? So you've got to, you know, have some new stuff going on in the conversation at some point in time, otherwise you're going to get bored, right? Now, conversely, on the other side of that spectrum is where everything is different all the time. Now, the extreme example of that in music is atonal serialism, where not one note is more important than any other note, where, you know, we've even thrown out the traditional tonal system of Western music, you know, so it's, you know, and you don't know when it's going to happen. What's going to happen when, you know, like when am I going to play? What am I going to play next? Now, it's interesting. I would say that's interesting, but it's destabilizing. Now, so the composers who were working on atonal serialism actually were trying to make some music that was destabilizing, and I guess it reflected maybe the cultural attitudes of the time and where they were living at the time too, for those guys. That was happening at the same time as Debussy was creating his beautiful music, which was the Impressionism stuff, which was, you know, it's almost like a reaction, like the opposite, right? It's the total opposite, okay? And so that's some beautiful music, but it's not as showy, it's not as kind of crazy, right? Impressionism, just as a side note anyway, was following on the Romantic period, where we had people like Chopin writing some ridiculously, you know, incredible music that was hard to play, very flashy, very showy. But I guess there's a reaction to that. You know, does every song have to be hard to play for it to be a good piece of music to listen to or perform, right? And so Debussy was saying, no, it doesn't. You know, we can create beautiful music. It doesn't have to be hard to play for it to be beautiful. All right. Side note, anyway. But here's the point. We need something to hang on to when we're composing. I think, in my opinion, we need something that's similar or the same, but we also need to start developing that and bring in something that is different, otherwise we get bored. Okay, here's our example, right? If I was to go do the same thing again, all right, it's getting boring already, right? But if you change it, same thing, but different, oh, it's interesting. All right, I get where he's going with this. Oh, cool, I can understand this already, right? Now, when he starts speeding up, you kind of already know what's going on, right? It's the same notes, it's the same pattern, and he develops that. He continues on, right? So, where is it there? I've got to find what the spot is. All right, now kind of this next little bit, still again those three notes going down, but they're different notes, right? But it does kind of say, okay, remember the beginning? All right, we're doing the beginning again, but it's not the same, right? And then it's still again 3 notes down, and then 3 notes and then 1 down, right? Now I made the pauses in there just on purpose, just so you could hear those 3 and then go down. It continues on and on and on and on. So there's some interesting things we can kind of learn from that. And let's look at Beautiful Love and try and put this into a jazz context now. How can we do this when we're talking about improvising? Now, one of the interesting things I think when you are improvising and thinking about developing a theme or developing an idea as far as you can is you'll end up playing stuff that you haven't played before, because you're thinking oh, I did that, or can I keep doing that, or can I do something similar to that? And you keep moving, and within the chord practice that you've done before, and within your understanding of modes and different things, your musical understanding, you'll come up with some different ideas because that you're thinking, oh, I want to keep developing this thing. Otherwise, you're just going to go from one idea to the next idea, to the next idea, to the next idea, to the next idea, right? Particularly if you've practiced a whole bunch of licks, you don't want to go from one lick to the next lick, to the next lick, to the next lick, right? You play a lick, think about it, hear it, listen to it, know that you're going to the new chord, but what can I do next that complements what I just did? What can I do next that maybe says, yeah, cool, I heard what you just did then, and I'm responding to that, right? Now we can do that as individual players, but obviously in a jazz context, often we're playing with other people as well, and that's where the conversation, I guess, happens even in a greater way. But I always try and listen to what I'm playing. I know that sounds a bit funny, but what I'm saying is that I try and play it and listen to it. Oh, how does that make me feel? Oh, this is just the melody at the moment, so I'm just playing the melody and the chords. I'm reading it from the new real book. It's usually a swing, but I just... All right, now we'll go into some improvising now, so... So when we go into the improvising, let's maybe just do one thing and then go, all right, let's kind of work with that, right? So why don't I do something like, all right, let's just do that. All right, now see how I kind of worked with those three notes? Basically, I went one note up and then like by step, and then a small jump, right? What did I just start? I started with that, right? Which kind of really makes reference to the melody there. Okay, it's really just I left out that F. All right. I don't remember what I did next, right? But there's that kind of idea. Now there's a rhythmic idea there too, wasn't there? You know, so a few eighth notes put together there, da da da, right? So okay, here's a different idea. Let's try and hold this piece of music, the improv, together with just a rhythm, but not really particularly notes, right? So you could go. All right, it ended up being kind of just two notes being random, right? But the rhythm, like whether it was going up or down, it didn't really matter. But it had that rhythm: 1, 2, 3, 4, da da, da da. All right, so that kind of held it together. So you can, and it's interesting too. The more that you develop a theme in a way that the listener kind of can grab hold of that, the more you can play outside, and I think, personally, it still sounds okay, right? If you play outside, but you don't give the listener something to grab onto, then it can be, it's just kind of like noodles in a soup, right? It's just what it is, what is it, right? I like noodles, right? So, but you kind of hear what I'm trying to say? Hopefully, anyway, that kind of makes sense. So if I was to kind of... Right? How am I going to help the listener to be able to kind of hear what's going on? Now, of course, your jazz listener is probably a little bit more capable of grabbing hold of something than the typical pop consumer listener, right? But still, that idea still. It still has to happen, right? We've still got to give them something to listen to. So, in jazz, often that's the chords, right? In the sense that we know, what the next chords are coming if you know the song. So if I go a little bit more outside now. It wasn't very outside there anyway. I was sort of coming back to the guide tones pretty quickly through there anyway. All right, let me give you an exercise that you can practice. Why don't you practice, if you want to, your 2-5-1s and see how far you can take one idea, or whatever standard that you're working on at the time. Just see how far can you take one idea. Now, it could be the silliest of ideas ever, maybe like a run, 5 notes going down, okay? 1 and 2, I'll just play Beautiful Love, and let's see what we can do with that, right? 1, 3 and 4, 1, 2. Like, that's the other way, right? All right, not real happy with that, but anyway, you can see there was kind of some things that were kind of stretching me there, because I was kind of forcing myself to play something in a way that I probably wouldn't force myself to other times. But it's a great exercise to really help you to, to really help you to just be able to play kind of anything and just kind of keep going. Anyway, hopefully that's helpful for you. So if you like these videos, hey, subscribe, put on that notification bell, you know, all that kind of stuff that people say. And hopefully I've given you something to work on. So yeah, for me, I think the exercise that you could work on if you wanted to try and work on developing your themes is do something, anything at all, and then try and push that throughout that piece of music as far as you can without it sounding absolutely ridiculous, right? Now, once you've done that, of course, you know, when you're actually performing, when you're actually playing, you just want to let go of all that kind of stuff. Hopefully, you just hear something when you're playing and you go, oh, that, I want to repeat that. I want to add a little bit more of that. So, but it should just be a little bit more natural when that comes out. All right, guys, all the best. I'll see you soon. Bye.